Hi there. Welcome to this 2026 Ecosystem Orchestration Dialogue. If you don't know that the average B2B customer has 28 moments they make a vendor decision, and the average company might only get into 4 of those moments, while the other 24 are owned by others, then you may need to radically revise your go-to-market strategy for 2026 and ahead. This data comes from Canalys, and it's a reality CEOs are feeling every day. Hi, I'm Thomas Dussara. I'm founder at Viva DTM, and today I am delighted to welcoming Samantha Lancashire, expert in sales, empowerment, and psychology, founder of Creating Lightbulb Moments. Hi, Sam. How are you doing today?
Thomas, I am doing great, and it is a real pleasure for us to finally get this recording done. I've been really excited about this conversation.
Wonderful. Then, Sam, we are seeing 82% of CEOs investing in partnerships, again, from Canalys analysis. And Forrester also predicts that 90% of B2B sales in 2030 will happen through partners, which means through them as a channel, which means with them, selling with them, and also to them in case of MSP. So it will all happen through partnerships, right? So moving from lonely sales performers to ecosystem sales champions, it still remains a big struggle as of today. So why is that?
I think if I go back a little bit, in my sort of like my experience in working in this B2B space,
Mhm.
and over the years, and it's been a number of years now, I'm in my 18th year in doing this. I have seen a massive shift from sort of like a direct sales model to sort of like a partner, indirect sales model,
Uh-huh.
through to more of like this ecosystem that you're talking about now. And I think the big shift has happened because, first of all, that wake up call that you've just said with those
Mhm.
28 different touch points from that research,
Yeah.
sellers are only typically involved in, maybe single figures in those, right? So that means that you're potentially invisible for the rest of the journey. And what are the buyers
Right.
doing if you're invisible? So I think the savvy companies, the smart organizations and vendors are seeing the partner ecosystem as not just another indirect sales avenue, but more how can we work better together to amplify our impact, be more present in those touch points, and like win more business together. And I think that's the difference that I'm seeing now is that buyers are changing the way that they purchase because they want more certainty and security, which
Mhm.
is why there's more touch points, right? They want to know more, they want to dive deeper, they don't want shelfware, they want ROI in a bigger way than they've ever done before. But at the same time, if they're seeing a partner as maybe a bit more impartial or as more of a trusted advisor, that's why potentially they're going there for their fulfillment. And I think the smart vendors are the ones that are tapping into that to reduce that 28 touch points of where they're present. So to increase the 28 touch points of where they're present from single figures to double
Right.
figures, right?
Well, that's a very good point. Thanks for precising your vision on that in your experience. So basically, yeah, the point is how I'm gonna get traction on those additional 24 moments, right? So in your work with leading software firms, so I know that you've been working with very renowned company worldwide, and you're still doing it nowadays. And my question is, you see the human friction in those companies, you know? And when we talk about hybridizing a sales team, whatever your client is, whichever size it is, what are the main seller archetypes you are encountering and how they impact this bottom line we just mentioned before?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the earlier days in my career, I would have seen more of these lone hunters. That they would have had great relationships, they had the hustle going on and sort of like the network to go with it. And
Mhm.
they had success because their strength was their knowledge, their ability, and also their personality, right? So you mentioned before about sales psychology.
Yeah.
I always lean into the well-known phrase that people buy with emotion or make decisions even with emotion first and then justify with logic. And so those lone hunters who were successful have always done that. They've always leaned into building the relationship first. Now, that model doesn't scale, and I think that's the problem
Hmm.
in today's
Agreed.
sales environment, that it is more complex. The additional touch points are required for that certainty. And as a result, that's where sometimes deals do slide. So the archetypes that are maybe now more progressive are those ones that are more what I call like the orchestrators. And the best analogy I can give to this is if you think about an orchestra
Uh-huh.
and you have everybody playing a different instrument in the orchestra, in the past, that seller and that buyer would have potentially have been playing their own instrument in the orchestra. Now the smart seller has switched role
Wow.
and almost like retrained to be the conductor. And the smart seller is the one who orchestrates and brings everybody in at the right time to play an amazing tune, which then results in a great sale. But not only a great sale, but a great relationship because they know how to bring in the instruments at the right time, the players at the right time. And also that helps them sort of build much stronger relationships because everybody's singing the same tune, for want of an analogy phrase, right? It's
Yeah.
fundamentally not just a different skill set, but a shift in mindset. But that's
Wow.
where I'm seeing the most success right now in this sort of more like an orchestrator seller archetype. And the buyers tend to respond to it better as well.
Well, I really like the metaphor you're using. And yes, I do believe too that there is a mindset change that needs to happen. There is a stat that we know that 57% of revenue team members indicate that they don't expect to hit their target. It's 57. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And so it's data from the Future of Revenue Report 2025. So pretty recent data. So according to you, how can we reduce this number? How do we build those ecosystem players? What's your recommendation on that?
Yeah, I think it is about building strong partnerships, right? I mean, the key, I think, is in the title. And sometimes we've paid lip service to it, almost like, oh, here's my partner program or here's my partner initiative, right? The ones that I'm seeing that are more successful are the ones
Hmm.
that are seeing partnership in every sense of the word. So things like where vendors and partners at whatever the level talk the same language, whether
Wow.
that's how they propose their proposition, how they manage the opportunity together, how they identify ways to help each other from the sales side, upsell and cross sell, and then from the customer side, provide almost like a concierge one-stop shop around what the product or service is that they're offering. And I think that that is I suppose, a smarter way of looking at how can we improve that percentage that you talked about, not necessarily just closing more deals, because sometimes that is difficult in today's climate. I think we'll all agree with that, but be more intentional about the deals that we're working on so that we're getting the best possible opportunity for the vendor, the partner, but most importantly, the customer. And if the customer feels that they're going to get that concierge trusted service where maybe services go with products, implementation, consultation, whatever it is, they're more likely to decide on that because it's one less thing that they have to worry about later. And that benefits everybody. That helps sellers hit their quota. And also that creates stickiness, both with the partner and then also the vendor, because they've got everything running as they should. I think that's going to be a sweet spot as we move into 2026, 27. But where we start with that is getting everybody talking the same language. And I've already started to see some partners doing a great job of that, and vendors really stepping away from just marketing blitzes or cooperative funding, and actually working on cooperative enablement and training initiatives together so they can move forward almost like as a really strong force.
Well, I really appreciate how you are elaborating about the new challenge. So the challenge has changed. If I understand well your point, it's not about selling your solution as a vendor, it's to offering a full experience, selling value all the way. So by knowing how to articulate value with partners, you are treating your client in a more inclusive way, and you're really solving more issues. And basically, you don't only focus on you, you focus on all the journey. So you're positioning your partner at some point where they are more relevant than you. You do the co-sell, you interact with them, and then they provide the services. So it's like a RASI sharing the responsibility, but going together,
Yep.
which is a big difference of the lonely player before, because this person was going alone, right?
Right. And that's where the conductor mindset comes in, who's going to orchestrate some of this, because then you get shared language, shared tooling, and also you almost get permission to be able to move forward without feeling that it's risky or it's political or, I can't do that. I think again, that is that mindset shift that is really required, because I work a lot with MedPIC as an example for a qualification and discovery framework, but you can't
Yeah.
build champions if you don't have sort of the things that go behind it and the trust to enable that champion relationship. And that's where the orchestrator will really step into their own, because they'll be able to demonstrate to the champion how they're doing that, not just talking about it, but actually showing them in a way that brings them on the journey and that they really start to champion the case internally. Yeah.
Wow. So you're mentioning something else, which is to be a good seller today, you need to be an orchestrator. But to be an orchestrator, what you need to do? You need to be excellent at articulating your value with different types of partners. So you need to be agile. You need to
Yeah.
be open-minded. You need to be ready to articulate value. So you need to be prepared. And also, you need to empower people around you. So it's not about you being the best. That's not the point anymore. And we know that doesn't make you successful in sales today. It's about building champions, even as the partners, people who are going to go with you, they're going to push you, they're going to be knowledgeable about you. And if they need you as a specialist of your brand, they will contact you. But at least they will know how to talk about you when you're not there physically. So is that right? Is that what you just explained?
Absolutely. Yeah. And as well, the whole thing about being a champion is that they have the mindset that they want to win, but they want you to win too. So they are your advocator and they will go and sell on your behalf when you are not in the room. What is more powerful than a partner doing that to a vendor? Even when that vendor isn't maybe even thinking about that opportunity, like that
Mhm.
that relationship is so strong and so trusted, and the partner feels that, hey, this vendor has my back and we're in this together, that they are being championed in rooms that they don't even know about yet. How powerful is that?
Well, I think this is what all CEOs and C-level members, when they meet during board meetings, that's what they want. They want to scale. They want to have a lower customer acquisition cost. So, what do you think about the biggest, maybe I would say the KPIs, which you are improving working with partners? What's coming to your mind about sales excellence? What new sellers, the orchestrators, are gonna manage to achieve with partner ecosystem sales?
Absolutely. I sort of alluded to this a little earlier.
Yeah.
I think win rates have the propensity to grow because you're going to be involved in more conversations when you work strategically with partners and within this ecosystem orchestrator mindset. So that's the first thing. I also think that the ACV has the propensity to grow as well because you are creating that stickiness and also you are potentially impacting future churn. So you've also got an opportunity if you're a SaaS-based model or an annual based model
Hmm.
to impact your renewals of the future. And when you start to think about winning new business at a grassroots level, so higher win rates, winning bigger business, so higher ACV, and then protecting your revenue, because we all know that it costs more to acquire a new customer than it does to retain an existing one. So we
Yes.
work then thinking about what our renewals look like. This business case becomes very compelling and difficult to ignore at a leadership level because these aren't just like marginal gains. They're like numbers that can really reshape your go-to-market strategy. And the
So,
organizations and partners that are starting to
yeah.
think this way are the ones that I see are going to be more successful, not just for now, but also in the future.
So I really like the three main ideas you shared. So partners, why working with them? Why having them included in your go-to-market strategy as a vendor? Because annual customer value is higher. So I have a stat on that. It's you can achieve 48% higher ACV by having partners on your deals. So either they source them or either they are influencing them with you. So you're doing co-selling. So 48% higher annual contract value. This is huge. You
Yeah.
also mentioned another one, which is about you have more chances to win. So more conversion from sales pipeline to closed win, which is essential for every sales team. So on that part, another figure is 53% higher win rate. So it's coming from the ecosystem-led growth report from Crossbeam. And then you're also mentioning the churn reduction. Absolutely. I mean, churn is a big deal. And obviously, integrations are essential. Integrations is with partners. So
Hmm.
if your product is well integrated with other solutions, you know what? Your client is not going to remove you because you are fully integrated in their ecosystem of solutions. So another stat is that potentially when you have your solution integrated with three or four solutions, there is 35% less risks of churn. It's from Rollworks. So so it sounds like partnerships have nothing cosmetic. It sounds like it's a big deal today. How do you see partnerships are considered today? Do you think they are considered as a department by software leaders you're talking to, or do you consider like it's included by default as a go-to-market strategy?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
But over the last few years, I've definitely seen a positive shift towards it being like less transactional and almost like here's another way we can sell and more strategic. And it's more like here's another way we can go to market together. Because, when we all do well, we all do well. I was actually at a conference the last 2 days, and
Yeah.
that was something that came up quite a lot is, when we all do well, we all do well, we all win together. And so the smarter organizations I am seeing are the ones who are creating this more of like a go-to-market ecosystem around what that looks like, enabling strategic partner relationships, and less of seeing them more as a transactional part of their business that allows us
Yeah.
to sell our product in a different way. In the olden days, if I think about the sort of the triangle, and you'd have vendor at the bottom, you'd have partner in the middle, and then you might have, added value like a VAR or a reset, a disty at the top. It was very transactional because you'd put the numbers in there. You'd say, well, one salesperson here in the bottom could be 10 salespeople in the middle and
Yeah,
100
I've heard
salespeople.
that too.
And it
Yeah.
was very, do you remember those kind of
I
models?
do. Yes.
Right. Absolutely. And if somebody's listening to the call and they agree, I'd love for them to let us know because that's the
Yeah.
traditional model. I'm seeing that mindset shift change dramatically now and seeing it more as a strategic way of taking our business to market because we're investing in the right relationships and that's giving us the yield through the seller archetypes that are changing from that lone ranger to more of
Mhm.
that orchestrator. They're making great use and getting great value out of that shift. So, and for me, I think that's for the better because then we start to win together, right? As I say, we all do well. We all do well.
I like that. So let's go back on psychology. You just mentioned new mindset, new values. So that psychological shift is critical, right? And me, what I often see is that there is even a willingness, to become an ecosystem champion. Now people are starting to say, I want to know how to work with partners, with the
Yeah.
ecosystem, and deliver value with them, right?
Yeah.
It's just still difficult because there is a misalignment. You have some people ready to do that, but the organization is kind of not built the right way. For example, even if you work with partners, you are not incentivized on that. And so basically, maybe I would say 1 to 2% out of 10, like 25% of your teams know how to do that. So the point is like, there is still a big misalignment between organization. So the leadership wants to do better with partners,
Mhm.
but the teams are not really empowered to change their ways they sell. So they are still basing their work on direct sales approaches. So the question is, how would you, which path would you recommend for an organization to go through a transformation? What are the steps you advise them to go through to enable the team to work differently? It's a big
Yeah.
picture. How would you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's like any change management initiative, and I hate to call it that because it feels a little bit like a process, right? But bear with me for a second while I explain.
Hmm.
Any change management initiative, you can have the best templates in the world, you can have the best system, you can have an amazing process, whatever part of the business that you're in. But if you don't work on the change management of the people's mindset and get them working like collectively together, you might as well take all of that other good stuff and investment of time, money, and resources and put it in the bin. Because if people don't feel it in their head and their heart, and I know that might sound a little bit squishy when we're talking about business,
Yeah.
but people will not be motivated to change behavior if they don't feel that there's a what's in it for me and it doesn't feel safe to do so. And sometimes when people feel like they're giving up, I don't want to say power, but knowledge or relationships, which sometimes that's what partner relationships can feel like. It feels like I'm not in control anymore.
Oh,
And so the
oh yes,
mindset,
I think so. I think this is the biggest frustration people are feeling with partners. You
right,
lose control. That's just a feeling, I think.
absolutely.
But
But
yeah,
remember,
definitely.
when we buy or when we make any decision, we lead with emotion first and then justify with logic, then justify with data and facts. So if our emotions are telling us this doesn't feel safe, I don't know if I can trust them, what happens if I give this over and XYZ happens or doesn't happen, then we revert back to our Lone Ranger, right? And we put that hat on. So to go back to where I started, any change management initiative needs to also figure out how we can bring people on the journey and what better way to do that from an enabling perspective than to enable folks that are working on the partner relationships in the vendor and
Hmm.
folks that are working on the customer relationships in the partner, enable them together on the same things. That's where I see it being almost like a force multiplier because you're
Wow,
doing
I
the
like that.
things together. Yeah. You're building the trust. You're not only sort of like ticking the box, but you're saying, help me interpret when we talk the same language. What
Mm.
does that mean in your organization? What does that mean in our organization? And vice versa. And that's when you start to expedite the trust factor, but also then you're capturing that fear factor that I just mentioned, and you were sort of wholeheartedly agreeing on. It's like, well, it's not
Mm.
about giving over control or permission. It's about how do we share so that we win this together. And I know you and I have bounced around a conversation around the med pick and almost like adding a second P for partners to med pick.
Wow.
That would potentially be a great place to start because at the moment, if you're working in a partner sales model or you're looking to really step into this GTM ecosystem, that is potentially a critical blind spot. So for me, I
I
would look to increase that. Sorry,
yeah.
yeah, include that in the future so we can increase the connectivity between what both parties need to be able to build that trust faster so we can go forward together and create more impact.
Yeah, I totally agree. New P for what matters most, which is partners, because of the influence, because they are influencing 24 out of 28 moments. So nothing cosmetic again. It's central. This is where the intelligence of the market is. They own the intelligence. Uh, as good as your solution is, even if it's the best solution in the market, if you don't capture enough intelligence, you won't be positioned. So you're
Right.
losing the game before even playing it. So again, I think there is a big transformation to do. I think companies need, I would say, to have their team know themselves better. I think you cannot become an orchestrator if you don't know yourself well. So I really appreciate all the work you're doing, working on understanding their profile, who they are, what are their strengths, and and how I can interact in a trustworthy way with other people. And so you need to know yourself. So I really appreciate the work you're doing with teams on that part. And I think that what I'm doing is really complementary to that. So once someone knows well his qualities, his strength, and what he needs to improve on, then he or she needs to improve her hard skills on partnerships. Partnerships is a complex, it's a science.
Mm.
It's working with a GSI or a hyperscaler or a boutique consulting agency has nothing to do. What is at stake is definitely different.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring, I would say, in my work at VRBTM to empower those people, you know. So, for example, an account executive, how he can work on a deal with a partner, when to engage with a partner, how to do co-marketing with a partner where he's seeing value. Because as you mentioned before, the idea is not to talk about you, is to talk about how with some other entities you're gonna deliver answers to a client, actionable answers. So it's about also knowing how to go to market with others. So it's doing also, I would say, co-marketing. So don't only do your own actions, but do them with the right business partners. So this is where I'm trying to focus on to really bring this transformation. You need to empower people so that they understand what the stakes are in channel, in partnerships, and they can address them obviously,
Yeah.
and win with the partners. I have this concept of passerelle, and I think you touched this point of having someone in the organization that not only is a salesperson, but is also someone who is talking to the other departments.
Yeah.
I think these people are critical to the success of your company. So those passerelles or gateways, those people who are interacting with other departments, who are working, I would say, um, all across the organization with all departments, with not a siloed approach, are
Yeah.
the one we need to promote inside the organization. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, with the emphasis now on multi-threading within an opportunity and in an account, utilizing that partnership approach allows you to do this in a much more complete way. It meaningfully reduces the risk of like late stage surprises. And also it let's use medic or medpic as an example,
Mhm.
or whatever your framework is. You need to understand who's involved in the buying conversation and who holds the wallet. you need to understand things like the impact on their business of the business problem right now and really sort of drill into that pain. And having a partner on board and having a strategy talking the same language the way you do this often gives you greater depth to find out what's really going on because you're multi-threading with intention, but you also have the trusted relationships there that you might not have as just that lone ranger vendor seller sitting on the outside. So for me, that sort of also has the propensity to collapse the timeline on the amount of time it takes to close a deal if
Yeah.
it's done right. So that could be another potential metric win or ROI win on the partnership side because you're all working more cohesively together and it's not just one person doing all of the work. And I think that for me is going to be a game changer the more that organizations work in that way.
Thank you. That's extremely insightful, and this is a good way to end this chat for today. So, obviously, as we mentioned, we are transitioning from classical objective of customer experience to this inclusive journey.
Yeah.
And it's a journey, it's all about people. And so we are moving to customer partner experience. And this is a real deal. This is what's happening. This is where we deliver value. And this is where we get happy customers. And so the message we want to share with Sam is clear. The sooner you initiate this transition, the sooner you will get tangible results. Obviously, partnerships is not, it doesn't go from a day to another. It requires change. It requires change of mindset, but it requires more than that. It's
Yeah.
empowerment. And that's what we do. We provide, we empower sales team in this change. So thank you for joining this chat together today. We welcome you to go through our diagnostic. It's the CPX diagnostic, just for you to rate where you are right now in your company organization in this process of getting more value with partners. And we're looking forward to having you join our next session. Thank you so much, Sam, for bringing us so much value to this call, and I look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. And I have really enjoyed our conversation today. I hope the listeners find it useful and it's hopefully it should start you thinking, this is something that I need to think about and actually shifting that to this is something I need to take action on because this is what's going to help grow your pipeline, your opportunities, and your close won, plus protect your renewals for the future. But we need to start now because, as you said, that takes time. So I think that's a great place for us to end. And I look forward to the next conversation.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.